Welcome back to another episode of Women Who Podcast. This is the podcast for side hustling women who are time limited but ambitious and who want to have some podcasting in their life, whether that's guesting or, as I like to promote, having your own podcast. This episode is going to be a little different to the others. You're going to hear a call that was held between myself and three of my other podcasting friends. We get together every week in an accountability group every Thursday morning, or my time we meet. And we thought it would be fun to record a podcast about each of us asking a question that kind of relates to our own podcast. So you can get to hear the kinds of people who have a podcast. And if you haven't yet dipped your toe into podcasting yet, give you the courage and inspiration to do so. And also, you might find another podcast that you would like to listen to. You're going to hear from Robin Hackney, host of Spandex and Wine, Penny Fitzgerald, host of Penny for Your Shots, and Becca Ingersoll, the host of Finding Joy Through Life's Trials. We call ourselves Pod 30, or when Robin shared the file for this, she called us the Fab Four. We met on the Kathy Heller Your Turn to Podcast course last year, and we were all put into accountability groups where we could reach out for support from our peers, run ideas past each other, and share successes, for example. And we're still meeting to this day. I love meeting with this group, knowing that there are a group of your peers who will feedback on ideas that you have, who will give honest feedback, not just, yeah, that was awesome, like you hear from your friends. These are people who are in podcasting and know exactly what you are going through, the technology troubles that you might have, and also just give you other ideas and inspiration for ways to move forward. So I hope you enjoy listening to this episode with us, Fab Four, Pod 30. And I'll be back at the end with an idea that I would like to run past you. So let's get into it.
All right, ladies, let's kick this off. I'm so happy that all of us are here together. This is so fun. To be in the same accountability group as all of you is wonderful. So my name is Robin Hackney. My podcast is Spandex and Wine. Allison?
Hi, my podcast is, I've got two podcasts, Women Who Podcast and Our Scotland. And yeah, I love this accountability group, Robin. So over to Becca.
Hello, my name is Becca Ingersoll, and my podcast is called Finding Joy Through Life's Trials. And I just love these ladies.
Hi, I'm Penny Fitzgerald, and my podcast is called Penny for Your Shots, Conversations and Cocktails with Brilliant Women. And I so appreciate you guys because we keep each other on track and come up with, shared ideas. And it's been a very wonderful journey with you all.
I agree. And I'm going to kick mine off because you guys, this is probably the thing that you want to talk about the least is exercise, because not everyone takes the same joy in exercise that I do. All right. So I'm going to ask each of you then, tell me what you do for your exercise regimen. So Allison, how about you first?
So I used to hate exercise when I was a kid at school. I tried to get out of, cross country, school sports, the lot. But when I moved to New Zealand from the UK, it was by osmosis. Everyone was really active here. And I found myself doing triathlon. These days, though, I'm a mum, I work long hours, do all kinds of stuff. But for my exercise, I run or I walk. It's non-negotiable. I do a minimum 2 kilometers a day, which is really manageable because some days all you can do is fit in a 2K walk. It takes less than half an hour. I've got 3 2K routes mapped out in my head. So whatever I'm feeling like is like, I'm just going to walk to the end of the road, I'm going to turn around and come back again, or I'm going to go around the block. And then other days I'll go for a run. So yesterday was a run day. I'm returning after injury and, losing all my fitness, but I did 4Ks, which was a mile of that was uphill, and I'm so proud of myself for not stopping. So yeah, I run or I walk. That's my exercise. I probably should do a bit of strength work, but I just don't really enjoy that. How about you, Becca? What do you do for your exercise?
Well, I am one that does not love it as much as other people, but I am trying to be better. And I know that it helps so much for me, especially it helps with my mental health a lot, which I have struggled with in the past. And so I'm trying to be better. My go-tos are, like Allison said, I avoided PE and sports for the most part. Although I did play softball growing up. I loved softball. But anyway, so I go to the ones. I love going on walks, especially because I can carry on conversations with people and have fun with friends and family if we're going on a walk together. Or alternatively, if I'm by myself, I can listen to a podcast or an audio book. Or I'm also trying to get into yoga. I enjoy it immensely every time I do it, but I don't do it consistently yet. So that's mine. Penny.
I am the kid who was picked last for every team. In PE, yeah. So I have some traumatic memories from junior high, but I digress. But as I got older, I loved classes, so I took a lot of classes as a young adult doing, jazzercise. Anybody remember that? And Pilates and those kinds of classes. So I love that kind of thing. But these days, I love to golf. I just kind of discovered that gosh, I think I was close to 40 years old when I started golfing, but love it. Absolutely love it. So I do, in the summertime in Iowa, I do Wednesday night ladies league, Friday night couples league, and then we golf on the weekends, my husband and I together. So that's super fun. And then as an individual walking, I love to walk. It's kind of a solitude kind of thing. I go, especially in Florida when I'm down there, walking with listening to podcasts and catching up on my friends' podcasts, and then also getting some of the other podcasts I listen to that are more self-reflective and business growth oriented. So there's, gosh, any topic you can think of, there's a podcast for it. So I love listening to those while I walk, and it just makes the time go really fast. And then seeing all the beautiful palm trees and flowers is also very nice and great way to start the day. Robin, what do you do? I'm sure you do a lot of different things.
I do. My main focus is on strength training, and I would encourage all of you to begin if you have not. Because after the age of 30, we lose 3 to 6% muscle mass every year. So, and we're going to need that, ladies, later in life. So even if you just did 2 times a week, then you would see big improvements. And, just think about like from maybe it's a push-up, it's a squat, it's some kind of push pull basically. And you guys, you can jump right in, do it. Just do anything that you can do, even if it's just a couple minutes of bicep curls and squats, whatever you can fit into your day. I would encourage you to do that. But I'm same with Penny, or I'm the same as Penny as far as walking. That's more of my moving meditation and time for just me to just check out. So that's what I do. Becca, I know that you had a question for all of us.
Yeah. Before we move on to my question, can I follow up to what you just said, Robin? I was just going to say, with strength training especially, one of the reasons that I really want to exercise more, and I just thought this last night, is because, for those of you who don't know, I have a special needs son, or 2, but one who has cerebral palsy and doesn't walk independently. And they were micro preemies, so they're still pretty small for their age. They're less than 50 pounds, but like we have a multi-level house, and I still carry Lincoln a lot more than most people would, the 7-year-old. And I just frequently think, oh, this is harder and harder to take care of him the older he gets. And so that was good motivation to remind me that, yes, it's important on many levels for me to start with more exercise routine. So thanks for sharing that. So you want me to share my question or ask it next? Okay. I want to know what activities bring you joy, and especially seasons that are difficult in your life. So, what are some of your go-to activities that bring you joy? You want to go first, Allison, or do you need to think for a minute?
I've got lots of different things that bring me joy, Becca. It depends on where I am, like, and if I'm alone in my house or if I've got family here. If I need some space, I just go for a walk, go for a run. I love, and we live really close to a forest, and on Sundays I like to go for my run or walk in the forest because I tend to do my walks quite early in the morning. It's now dark, so it's not really practical for me to go to the forest, but on Sundays I like to just take myself there and be among these giant redwoods. I know they're not native, but they actually grow better in my city, Rotorua, than they do in the States. They're like 120 years old and they're massive. Like you can't, you'll see people trying to put their arms around them and you need like 5 people to do that. But I love just being along the trees. So that being in trees and nature brings me joy. But I also do like doing little things like jigsaw puzzles and reading books. I'm quite a solitary person when it comes to joyful things. But then there are other things like eating ice cream with a good friend of mine. We did an ice cream crawl around her city, which was so much fun. We had 9 different scoops at 5 different shops. But we walked a lot. We walked, between the places. So yeah, lots of different things bring me joy. How about you, Penny?
I read your blog on that, Allison. That was fun. Very fun activity to do with a friend, and that brings me to my favorite thing. I mean, I find joy, I think, in almost everything that I do daily or try to. I mean, some days are harder than others, obviously, but the thing that brings me the most joy, I think, is being with friends and family, and sharing a good laugh or a good story, or especially over a glass of wine or a cocktail brings out a lot of stories. And being at the beach is another thing that is just so incredibly peaceful, a peaceful joy for me. Like just to watch the waves come in, listen to the sounds around me, like the birds and the people having fun behind me with their friends. And yeah, just watching all of that, kids playing in the waves and just having a good time together. For me, it's a community. I think being with my community, being with my people is so incredibly joyful and just brings me a lot of peace.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Robin? What do you find most joyful?
I'm similar to Allison, except she makes it sound really cool with her accent. But I mean, I just love being outside. I feel like, and as long as it's not too cold today, it's way too cold. But being outside, it just gives me so much energy and joy. I absolutely love it. I also, when the kids were growing up, I have 2 boys. When they were growing up, we did family night every Friday night. And a lot of times it was games. Like we weren't allowed to turn on the TV. We just played games, interacted with each other. And as you know, they've grown up. They're 30 and 32 now. One is married. And I love when we have family game night, when they come over. There's something different when your kids, Becca and Allison, you'll get there soon. But when you have an adult child, oh my gosh, it's just so much fun. It's very rewarding. And Becca, I have to tell you something that I saw today. It was a meme about glimmers. And glimmers, it said, oh, you guys, okay, you're shaking your heads. Glimmers is the opposite of triggers. So start to look for glimmers, things that make you happy, peaceful, gratitude. Look for those everywhere you go. And pretty soon they'll just start to multiply. What you are seeking out will just come to you. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Absolutely of that. I just did a podcast interview recently, and they asked how I focus on the blessings and things like that. And one of my tips was, I mentioned glimmers, I think, and I have a one-line day journal that I kind of use as a gratitude journal. So just find 1 or 2 or 3 things every day that bring you joy. And if you are looking for them, noticing them, and then writing them down, then you just notice more on you. So I love that. Thanks for sharing it. What brings me joy? What activities? I love reading. I'm I'm a bookaholic. So I'm constantly reading or listening to books. I love making crafts. My mom actually owned her own craft business all growing up. She just retired at the pandemic. So most of my life I've been making things with her. I love traveling. That is, if I were to rank things, that might be my number one thing to do. But that's probably the case for most people. Not my mom. She's a major homebody, but most people love traveling, and I'm one of them. And then the other thing I wrote down was watching shows, especially binge watching shows with my husband.
I learned a new phrase though for binge watching, Becca. It's batch watching.
Oh, I heard that in your episode. I love that. It sounds more productive.
Exactly.
Fun.
Allison, I
So-
think you had a question for all of
Mhm.
us too.
Well, yeah, I love hearing all your different podcasting stories and all the different podcasting topics. But I would love to know, where do you want your podcast to be in 5 years' time? What do you want it to look like, and what do you want it to be doing for you with experiences that you get from it? So, Becca, how about finding joy through life's trials? What
In 5 years.
Yeah, in 5 years.
This is really vulnerable. I haven't spoken these out loud, I don't think. But I have big dreams. I want my name to be known across the country. I want to become a public speaker. I want to have already I'm working on a memoir, and I want to at least publish that, and maybe more than one book. So that's one of the things that drove me to start my podcast, is to jumpstart my writing career and get an audience. And so I have a blog, I have my podcast, so I'm building that audience, and hopefully I'll have a more successful book launch when that time comes.
I can see that for you. How about you, Penny?
In 5 years, that's really hard to pin down, but more than anything, I want women to know that their stories matter. I feel like so many of us have, we've raised our kids, we've done our jobs, our kids are kind of maybe approaching being adults and moving out on their own, or maybe they already have. Many of my friends are in that empty nester stage. And then all of a sudden you look back and think, oh, I had all the things I wanted to do when I was younger, when my younger self. And you kind of lose sight of that because you're just doing what you have to do to move family forward and to keep things going and doing all the things. So I want women to remember that they matter, and that to one person, at least one person, you're everything, and I think a lot of women forget that through time. And so that's the main thing I want to do with my podcast, is lift women up and support them, and give them tools and encouragement and inspiration to move forward with what they wanted to do as younger women, and maybe find something new that they enjoy doing that they didn't know about or didn't think was possible for themselves. So I'm creating courses and building up my audience as well, and wanting to share more speaking engagements with them, and do some of these courses together, lift people up, and just really, I'm looking forward to making new friends. More, can you ever have too many friends? I don't think so. We have our good circle of friends, but having really, really a big, expansive circle of people, and sharing what we know. I feel like together, women are fierce. When we come together and share what we know and inspire each other and lift each other up and train each other, and okay, well, I tried this and that didn't work, but this is something that really was great, and I've found really, this tool or this way of doing things or this group has been super helpful for me in X, Y, and Z. So sharing those things together, I feel like when we come together, we can solve the world's problems and make it a better place. So that's what my goal in 5 years is, to change the world. Is that okay? Can I do that?
Sure.
Please do. Your answer made me feel like mine was incredibly self-centered. Can I add to mine?
You're not self-centered.
I'm
You're
not,
doing
but
it
my
in service
answer
of
sounded
others.
like it. I am. And I went on Allison's podcast. She asks about the billboard question, right? Or is that, no, that's Kristen. Sorry, Kristen Wilson. She asks, if you had a billboard, what would you want it to say? And one of the main things that I want women to know is you are never alone. That's one of my main focuses of why I share trials and share stories, because like you were talking about, sometimes, especially as moms, your world can seem very isolated. But the more we share our stories, like you said, the more we can see that we all have things in common and we're never alone. Okay, sorry, I'm done now. Robin?
All right. Well, I want to continue making amazing connections, like the connection that we have here and all of our guests. You would all agree with me that interviewing in a podcast setting is amazing because you do get to really have that one-on-one uninterrupted time with that person. So can you continue to make connections and to give women confidence? Give women confidence and men too to step out and do something that they wouldn't normally do. So, like with the three of you, starting next week with your strength training, right? Okay, yeah. But yeah, bring different options to your exercise regimen. And throw in a little bit of wine here and there too. Becca, I'm going to say something self-centered as well, but I don't think it's going to be self-centered really, because I went in 5 years, I want to have more of a financial freedom, and I want to have the choice of, am I going to get up 4:25 a.m. anymore? Or am I going to hire some of those classes out? I can't imagine stopping, teaching, but to have that option. So to be in a secure place where I feel like I could walk away or sell it to another wonderful soul. So
I have
I
so
think-
many ideas
It-
for my
Allison,
podcast. Yeah. I have so many ideas for where I want my podcast to go. And then sometimes I think, oh, is that just a little bit too much? Is that possible? But like you were all saying about other women, my main podcast is Women Who Podcast. And the goal of that is to get more women podcasting, because I don't know about any of you guys, and I'm sure this is actually true for pretty much all of us, is that the idea of starting a podcast, initially you would have thought, why would I start a podcast? Who's going to listen to what I have to say? What can I talk about? And I think everyone has got a podcast in them, whether it's being a guest on someone else's podcast or having their own show. So I want to inspire more women to just give it a go and speak tell their story, because it will help someone else. Like Becca, I've learned so much from listening to your podcast. And honestly, I listened to the interview you had with Suzanne talking about her son Christopher, and I was trying to stop myself from like bursting into tears as I was driving along this road. And these people have, everyone has a story that can touch someone, and you just don't know what that's going to lead to in the end. So I'd like a bigger community of women and a sisterhood, and we all help each other. We can all lift each other up. You know that saying about how a rising tide lifts all ships, and we should leave the ladder down. Like by leaving the ladder down, we're helping more women to climb up to the top of the ladder. So I want that for Women Who Podcast. But yeah, I also want to, with Our Scotland, my Scottish podcast, I'm loving the conversations and the access I'm getting to people. I'm interviewing one of my favorite authors. You would never have done that with a podcast without having a podcast. You might just, have interactions with them on social media, but having that one-on-one and being able to talk about their stories and their ideas, that I think we're in a really privileged position to be able to do that. I don't know where I want that podcast to go, Our Scotland. I'm just loving the stories from it, but it's making me want to travel to so many different places. So maybe I'll have like a travel component to that podcast in the future. Who knows? But Penny, did you have a question for us?
Yes. Well, normally when I'm doing my podcast interviews, I start by asking my guests about their career, like how they got started, what brings them joy, would they do anything differently, and that sort of thing. But we're kind of focusing more on podcasts today. And at the end of my interviews, I always ask something fun. So I'd like to ask you that fun question. And Becca, I know you don't drink adult beverages, but
That's
maybe you
okay.
could.
I still have an answer for you. You're good.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's great. Of course you do. So, my question at the end of every podcast is, well, what is your favorite cocktail or glass of wine? And if you have a favorite memory to share while you were enjoying that beverage with a girlfriend or a group of girls, a group of your friends, what would that be? Becca, you're nodding. What's your
You want me to go?
Yes.
Okay, well, for those who don't know me, I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so I don't drink alcohol. But for those of you who haven't been in Utah, there is like a massive explosion of drink shops that are non-alcoholic, and there are all sorts of different flavors and mixes, and they are all the rage. And so, my favorite is called a Dirty Diet Coke, which is yep, it's Diet Coke, or you can get it with Coke Zero, which I usually do actually, and coconut and lime, and that's my favorite by far.
Coconut. What was that?
Coconut,
Coconut
like
syrup?
coconut syrup
Okay.
and lime, like fresh
And lime.
lime.
Oh, yum.
Yeah, really good. And
Mocktails are having a moment.
they are. I could talk. I definitely want to have like more recipes for mocktails and whatnot.
Yum. Yeah.
And I do have a memory for that. So like I said, they're a big thing, and they're usually drive-through, because in Utah, you probably know there are a lot of stay-at-home moms who need a break throughout the day. And so you can pull through this drive-through and get a drink. During the pandemic, that's when my son was going through his cancer treatment. And so we were very isolated and trying to keep away from germs even more than the usual. And it was so wonderful because I had a few friends who were very aware of our circumstance and still wanted to reach out and connect as much as we could. And so I have a dear friend named Lauren who we would go to one of these drink shops and drive through in our separate cars, and then just park side by side in the parking lot and keep our windows down. And sometimes it was cold in the winter, but we would have talks, and I was able to meet up with her and have girl dates with a drink, even though I wasn't able to see many people outside of my family.
Love it. It's so important to keep connections, and that was a really creative way to do it. Very good.
Yeah.
Love it. Allison, what about you? What's your favorite cocktail or drink?
I have two lives. I have a drinking Allison and a non-drinking Allison. So when I was training for my first Ironman in 2004, I stopped drinking alcohol because I thought it would help me with my training. And I've never really got back into that habit of drinking alcohol. It's not to say that I won't have a drink. Like if there's champagne on offer, I will make an exception for champagne. But when I was a student and starting out in my journalism career, I wouldn't say I drank a lot because that would be unhealthy. But I did like to have a tipple. Like on Friday nights when I think I was about 18, I'd go and watch cricket quite a lot on Friday, Saturday nights. I'd go and watch cricket, which is a very English game. I know that Americans don't really get it because it's a bunch of men in white standing in a field. The game can seem to take a long time, but it's really sociable. Like I'd go and watch the game and just hang out with my friends, and we'd just like talk about the player in front of us with his tight white pants on. But on Saturday nights, I would go back to one of these friends' houses and we would get a kebab. We would watch, what's it called? It was a show about a Canadian Mountie. Was it called Due South or something like that? I can't remember. It was on a Saturday anyway. And then we would have like something like a Bailey's on ice. Do you have Bailey's? I
Oh, yeah.
love Bailey's. Yeah. So Bailey's is one of my all-time favorite drinks, and I've had it multiple different places, but to me it's something that just reminds me of us hanging out with my friends, Catherine and Kath, and having a kebab, watching TV, one Bailey's, go into town, we'd go dancing, we'd go to the nightclubs, and we wouldn't drink in the nightclubs because, you know, it was really expensive, and you don't really need alcohol to have a good time at the nightclub. You can just dance away, and then back to the house for another, you know, nightcap of Bailey's, and then up the next day to go and watch some more cricket. We would go up to some shenanigans. I remember we did redecorate the toilets of the cricket club with toilet paper because the toilets were open at night, and we'd stop there on our way home because you know, it was a 20-minute drive, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be busting. Yeah,
Smart.
but Bailey's would, I love the taste of Bailey's, and you can get it in all kinds of things. When I was home in the UK for Christmas, in the supermarkets, you can get like Bailey's chocolate, Bailey's ice cream, Bailey's double cream to put on your Christmas pudding.
Yes. Yes. In your coffee, it's delightful.
Yeah. So that's my story.
Fun. I love it. I love it. My only experience with cricket is watching on Downton Abbey. And it seemed more like a picnic then, you know, and I can relate with that.
I'd take my book. We'd have picnics. I've made so many friends through cricket. You wouldn't believe.
I love it. That's great. Okay, Robin.
Well, I'm still thinking about the cricket. So what's really weird is I live in a very small town in Kansas, and we live on a dirt road, but they have built a cricket field down the street. I mean, I haven't even seen it yet. It's on a dead end road. Seriously, you would think, where am I going? I hear banjos. But anyway, I'm thinking about going and checking out those tight white shorts is what I'm thinking about.
Yes. And take
That's
your
one
picnic
reason I love
basket.
paintball. Yeah.
So I always tell people it's kind of turn into like a tagline or a signature line of mine. Pour something in your glass that makes you happy. So it doesn't matter if it's alcoholic or not. It's hard to say one thing that I love. I do love wine. I love bubbles. So if you really pinned me down on what kind of wine, it would be a champagne or a Prosecco. But I do love a nice earthy, high tannin red wine. That's just awesome to me. And then tequila. I love me some tequila. I just on the rocks with my True Lime packets that I mention all the time. But yeah, that would be mine. And as far as a memory, I am going to say last April, I was at Penny's house down in Florida, and we got on this floating tiki bar boat, and it was so much fun. The driver and bartender for us, he had the best, or maybe we had the music. I can't remember. Oh, it was Sandy. It was Sandy's playlist.
Yeah, she plugged right into his, he had a speaker.
Yes. And then the dolphins were going right beside us as we're on the tiki bar, and, you know, our hair's going crazy. It was just wonderful. It was warm, and we were all just in the moment and having a great time. So I would say that's a special memory for me.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love that event too, because we laughed until we cried, I think. So fun. So fun. And my favorite beverage depends on the day and who's enjoying it with me, or if I'm by myself. If I'm by myself, I usually pair my wine with food, you know, like what I'm going to cook. And sometimes it's a little like shoes and your outfit. I pick my shoes first and then the outfit. So I'll pick my glass of wine first and then decide, you know, what am I going to eat? What am I going to cook? Or I'll look at the pantry and see what's available and go from there. But those are, I guess, how I choose what beverage I'm going to have. But if I'm with friends, I want to have a special cocktail usually. And sometimes I'll create something based on my group of friends or what their favorite spirit is. Like knowing you would come to visit, Robin, I would choose a tequila something. So put some coconut with it probably, and a little lime, one of those lime packets, which would totally work at a cricket event because they're so portable, right? You wouldn't have to take your knife and your lime and your cutting board and all of that.
Penny, you're so
When I
smart.
was 18, I remember going to the cricket, and I had recently turned 18, and so I got the job of going to the bar and getting the beers for all the guys that wanted beers. But I
That
guess,
would be a good job.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't too far, and you got to walk past the players' changing room,
Oh,
being an 18-year-old girl. Oh, let's just see who's up there.
I'm learning so much about you, Allison. I love it.
I know, I love it.
I've actually got loads of alcohol stories, but probably there's too many for this podcast. But
Oh, it's
Robin,
fun.
you mentioned tequila.
Mhm.
I walked the Inca Trail, and so it took us 4 days, and we ended up at Machu Picchu, and we finished the day before my birthday. So my birthday was the day after we'd done Machu Picchu and the Inca Trail, and so we were celebrating like the end of the walk. I was on a group tour, and I love pisco sours. It's the
Oh,
drink of
Yes.
choice in Peru. It's so yum. But then, because it was my birthday, the guides decided they were going to give me some double tequila. And
Oh.
the combination of altitude and celebrations,
Mm.
I've never been that sick in my life. And I remember all I
Mm.
remember was going back to the hotel with my head outside the window of the taxi. So I've never touched tequila since. But pisco sour, that was a really nice flavor.
Mhm.
can't blame you on not wanting tequila again.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness.
Yikes. Oh gosh. This has been so much fun. Yes, I loved, I mean, we get to talk to each other every week, but I feel like we all learned something. We learned a lot about Allison, but no. This has been great. We have to do this again.
For
I
sure.
think so.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, you ladies take care.
You
as
too,
well.
Robin.
Have a good
Thanks,
day.
ladies.
Thanks to Robin, Penny, and Becca for being such great podcasting friends. I really feel that my life is all the more richer for knowing you. I mentioned at the start that I had an idea to run past you. Are you letting your mind monkeys get in the way of starting your podcast? Are you paralyzed by over-analysis of all the steps you could be taking when there is an easier path for you? Are you stuck but need someone to give you a gentle nudge to take action? I'm trialing a podcaster's accountability group because I have experienced for myself what you can achieve when you have others alongside you in the same situation. It's going to be small so as not to overwhelm you. We'll meet weekly for a month, starting the week of April 8th to get you some wins. And as my time zone is going to be changing soon, I'm going to try to make it work for everyone who wants it. There will be a cost to this group, as I'm a firm believer in having some skin in the game to be sure of committing to it. But as this is the first one, it will be at a special beta price of $50. To secure your seat, send me an email, allison@allisonfraser.co, and we'll take it from there. Thanks for listening to this bonus episode. I will speak to you again soon.